that's going to be, you're going to have to do a lot of selling, promotion of that content in order for people to really want to buy it and take interest in it. I don't know. Conventions, at one time, that was the way. I know a lot of artists are still doing conventions, especially you got the regular comic book conventions and you got your anime conventions and so forth. And there's a lot of people making money at it, but it's a lot of work and it takes time. And you got to take into account if you drive, that's gas money. Food, you got to take into account. Um, where you going to stay, hotel, you know, the table, because you want to make sure that you make table, taking commissions and all of these things you got to take into consideration when you do an artist alley. I don't know if it's still worth it because to me it seems like people are just not interested in art or not interested in new ideas. Nobody's really looking for new content. Everybody still wants to just stay with the same thing that they're familiar with, and I don't slant nobody for it. Everybody knows Spider-Man. Everybody knows Batman. Everybody knows Superman. The list goes on, but nobody knows your character. And it takes a lot of work and promotion and marketing to really get your character out there to a point where you could make a decent income from it. There's a lot of artists that's working jobs alongside as well doing their art. And that's pretty much a lot of artists out there. A lot of artists have 2 or 3 jobs, and then when they have time, they do their art. I know some people I see on YouTube saying, "Oh, you need to dedicate your whole life to. If you want to be successful in the art, you got to dedicate 100% to it." But depending on your situation, where you live in the United States, it's going to factor in, can you dedicate that time? If you're living down in the South and you have a decent income that you could do things with, I say, and you don't have no children, you don't have a wife to take care of you, and it's just you, then that's a different story. But if you have children, you have a wife, family, you got to take these things in consideration. You can't just go off the whim and say, I'm going to quit my job and just go full force with the art, especially if you don't have a large following, you don't make a lot of sales, um, you, whether it be from commissions or online stores or selling work. So all these things you got to take in consideration. Um, I'm not saying Artist Alley is a bad thing. I think it's good. It has its place. My concern is sometimes when I go to these artist alleys and the artist alleys I've done, it seems like the artists are the secondary thing of the show. And I apologize for that in the video. My phone going off, trying to turn down the volume. Uh, so, um, yeah, I just wanted to say that because I notice a lot of people are doing these cons, but you got to really take in consideration the cost of it. And are these cons really beneficial to the artists? Are they really trying to help artists, especially new artists, get out there? Because based on the criteria that a lot of these conventions are doing, I don't see them really looking to cultivate new artists. And I don't see much cultivation out there, which is sad. I remember when God Bless His Soul Stan Lee was, a head of charge of Marvel, excuse me, along with Jim Shooter and the other editors. They had internships. They had, you know, it's more like a trade, almost like a trade. They treated it like a trade school. You know, Marvel was, if they thought you had potential, they would bring you in, and you'll learn from the professionals. And if they felt that your work was competent enough, you will get work. Slowly start getting work. Excuse me. That's not the case today. Um, and it's sad that now you have to pretty much already be polished with no and it's like you can't go to art school because there's not too many. There's only a few art schools that major in sequential arts, and a lot of it you got to do a lot of learning on your own and figuring things out on your own. Of course, you got YouTube, you got Skillshare, you got many different platforms that offer people who show you how to the basics of drawing and everything. But there's no hands on like it used to. You know, like the way old Marvel was, that's gone. You know, even DC did the same thing. That's those days are gone now, and I don't see cultivation going on. I just see, you know, you see people at tables. I've been to them. They sitting there. You could tell they not make. Nobody's not stopping by. Nobody's not checking them out. You know, and you could see it in the artist's face. You could see it in the creator's face when they're at the table. You know, and I understand because sometimes it could be very daunting and it could be frustrating to sit for 3 days and you know you very little interaction or very few people come to your table. I get it, you know. Um, it's doing comic books or any kind of art. It's something that it's you never know what's going to hit. You know, it's just like you look at some of the content that we look at today. Um, like for instance, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, how that was a black and white comic, and that became a franchise. You know, cartoons, and live action film, toys, the whole line. Um, you just don't know really, you know, and you just gotta keep. I guess you gotta just keep on trying, and also seeing what people are gravitating to. See what people are actually collecting. What grabs them, and try to create something that still has your identity to it, but then has elements where the people can relate to. And that sometimes can be challenging because even though you might incorporate that, if your style is not something that people are really fond of, that's another thing you got to take.